Some stories are etched in memory, not just for their tragedy, but for the lives they touch, the change they inspire, and the resolve they awaken in others. This is the heartbreaking story of Sarah Payn, an innocent 8-year-old girl whose life was cut short in the summer of 2000. It's a story that sent shockwaves across the UK, leaving a family and a nation shattered. But from this tragedy came a movement, a renewed commitment to protecting children, and a legacy that lives on in the laws inspired by her memory. Sarah Payn was a bright, cheerful child from Hersham in West Sussex, England. She was the third of 4 children, with 2 older brothers, Luke and Lee, and a younger sister, Charlotte. Her parents, Sarah and Michael Payn, were devoted to their family, working hard to create a happy home filled with laughter, love, and shared memories. Sarah was the kind of child who could light up a room, curious, playful, and always up for adventure. She loved nature, was close to her siblings, and cherished the time she spent with her family. In July 2000, the Payn family took a summer trip to the quiet village of Kingston Gorse, where Sarah's grandparents lived. This picturesque little village in West Sussex was a sanctuary for them, a place of calm, where the children could run free without fear and enjoy the countryside. The Payns loved coming here. The kids would play in the fields, walk along the shoreline, and build memories that Sarah and Michael thought they'd treasure for years. It was here that they believed their children were safest. On the evening of July 1st, 2000, Sarah and her siblings were playing in a field near their grandparents' house. It was a warm summer night, and the sun was beginning to dip below the horizon, casting a soft glow across the fields. Sarah and her siblings were playing hide-and-seek, their laughter echoing through the open fields. It was a peaceful scene, one that any family would recognize, a moment of simple joy and freedom. But in an instant, that peace was shattered. As the children played, Sarah's brother Luke suddenly noticed something odd. Sarah, who had been running around with them, was nowhere to be seen. At first, he assumed she was simply hiding, trying to win the game by finding the best hiding spot. But as he called out her name, there was no answer. Luke began to search more frantically, calling for his sister, hoping she'd pop out and surprise him. But as he looked around and realized she was truly gone, a sense of panic set in. The children ran back to their grandparents' house, their faces pale with fear. When they told their parents, Sarah and Michael immediately began searching, calling Sarah's name as they walked through the fields and nearby woods. Their voices rang out in the growing darkness, but there was no response. They kept searching, but their dread grew with every passing minute. Finally, they called the police, and within hours, a full-scale search was launched. The police, along with family members, volunteers, and local residents, searched tirelessly through the night and into the following days. The Payn family was devastated, but they clung to hope, believing that maybe Sarah had gotten lost or had simply wandered too far. The village of Kingston Gorse, normally so quiet, was filled with search teams, helicopters, and community members hoping to bring Sarah home safely. Posters with Sarah's photo, a sweet, smiling girl with brown hair and a sparkle in her eyes, were placed on every corner, her image becoming familiar to people across the nation. As days passed without any trace of Sarah, the reality began to sink in. Sarah hadn't just wandered off. Investigators started speaking with people in the area, searching for anyone who might have seen something that could lead them to Sarah. They discovered that a man in a white van had been seen driving near the field that evening. This man was known to local authorities, and he had a deeply concerning history. His name was Roy Whiting, a 41-year-old with a prior conviction for an offense involving a young girl. The police now had a lead, but suspicion alone wasn't enough. They needed evidence to make an arrest, so they intensified their investigation, following every possible lead. Forensic teams went over the area where Whiting had been seen and carefully examined his vehicle. As they combed through the van, they found small fibers and traces that matched items owned by Sarah, placing her near the vehicle that night. After days of painstaking work, investigators found enough evidence to confront Whiting and bring him into custody. The news was devastating for the Payn family, who had been clinging to the hope of seeing Sarah again. Shortly after Whiting's arrest, the search teams discovered Sarah's body in a secluded field, about 20 miles from where she had last been seen. Sarah had been taken from her family. Her life ended in an act of senseless cruelty. The discovery left her family shattered, their world forever changed. The pain they felt was indescribable, a heartbreak that no family should ever have to endure. But Sarah's parents, Sarah and Michael, were not alone in their grief. The entire country mourned with them, devastated by the loss of a child who had come to symbolize innocence and vulnerability. People across the UK lit candles, left flowers, and expressed their sympathy, trying to make sense of a tragedy that seemed so incomprehensible. The case went to trial, and as the evidence unfolded, the full horror of Whiting's actions became clear. He had acted on impulse, targeting Sarah in a random act of violence that left everyone stunned. The court heard about Whiting's previous convictions, a past that included a history of dangerous behavior around children. It was a hard truth for the Payn family to face, knowing that their daughter had fallen victim to someone with a known history of similar offenses. In the end, Whiting was found guilty, and he received a life sentence for his crime. Justice was served, but it offered little comfort to the family left behind. In the wake of Sarah's passing, her mother, Sarah Payn, found herself with a choice. She could either let grief consume her or channel it into something meaningful. Determined that Sarah's life would not be in vain, she chose the latter. Sarah became an advocate for child protection, speaking out about the need for greater safety measures and transparency around individuals with histories of offenses against children. She began campaigning for what would eventually become known as Sarah's Law. Sarah's Law was a groundbreaking initiative, giving parents the right to ask police if someone with access to their children has a history of offenses against minors. After tireless campaigning by Sarah and her supporters, the law was enacted, providing communities with a way to protect their children and prevent future tragedies. Though it came at an unimaginable cost, Sarah's legacy was now helping to save lives, offering other families a layer of protection that hadn't been available to the Payns. Today, Sarah Payn's story lives on as a beacon of change, a reminder of the importance of safeguarding children in every community. Her mother, Sarah Payn, became a national figure, admired for her strength, resilience, and dedication to protecting the vulnerable. Sarah's memory is cherished by those who knew her, and her legacy is honored by strangers who never met her, but who have been moved by her story.